Welcome to the Imperfect Dads Podcast.
I'm Justin.
And I'm Devin.
We believe dads care deeply about their family and kids,
but they don't always have a space to discuss what their life looks like.
Our podcast is a space for dads to discuss the ups and downs of fatherhood.
And how they feel like they're holding it all together.
Or how they're not.
Thank you for joining us for this episode. On this episode, we have on Derry DeBoraj from the 400 unit. We talked about his life as a stepdad, teenagers and smartphones, why he gave up drinking, and about his marriage starting in 2020 and how not being on the road helped his relationships. And also just like one more thing.
Dad, just start the episode.
Oh, my bad. So, Derry, thanks for being willing to do an episode, man. I really appreciate it.
Yes, my pleasure.
Very easy first question is just how many kids do you got, ages, all that good stuff.
Oh my gosh, that's the hardest question. No, not at
Right?
all. I've got one stepdaughter who is now 13 years old, just turned 13 in March.
My
So
gosh.
a new teenager,
Gosh.
a brand new teenager.
How does that feel so far?
It's frightening.
Yeah.
But it's frightening, but it's wonderful too. It's wonderful to watch her kind of sprout as her own person.
I have a 9-year-old daughter, 7-year-old daughter, and a 3-year-old son. And whenever my oldest turns 13, I'm sure I will say the exact same thing. Very excited because I know what new chapter of life this means for them and how much identity they're about to gain, but also terrified because I feel like this is also where like I'm going to mess up the most as a dad to a daughter is because I feel like I'm just going to look at them wrong. I'm going to do something where they're going to be like,
Yes.
How dare you say this to me? And I'm like, I just asked if you wanted spaghetti to dip for dinner. I didn't know.
I know exactly where you're coming from because I feel the same and I've told my friends this before, I think teenage girls have scared me my entire life.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
From being a preteen and on up to the present day, I think I'm still scared of teenage girls.
I think John Mulaney has a joke that's like 13-year-olds are like what I'm most scared of in my entire life because they will figure out what you're most insecure about and say it out loud to you with no emotion of how it just destroyed you. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right.
So can you be so cold?
How long have you been in your stepdaughter's life for?
I've been in her life since right before she turned 8.
Okay.
So yeah, 5-6 years now. Yeah.
I think it's I feel like we have to teach our older daughter this a lot of like tone and like how, hey, whenever you say that, here's how that's interpreted is an aspect of parenting I knew I'd have to do, but I don't think I realized how much I'd have to be like, hey, if you say this, here's what people think. Whenever you say that, say it nicer.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of that. There's also like, oh, you need to stop making your face look like that. Because you look like you're just either angry or really irritated with the world, right?
Yep. And
Yeah.
it's like you want to teach that. You don't want to teach your kid to like perform, but you do want to teach them like, hey, when people see you do this, and if no one calls you to come hang out, I'm not saying this is the reason. I'm saying this
Right.
plays into all of it.
It could be a factor.
It could be.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
So there's all those social intricacies are really crazy, like, revisiting from a parent perspective, I remember going through it as a child or as a teenager myself, but like now when you're going through it, I'm like, that's what my parents meant. Or
Yeah.
like, wow. Okay. That's just seeing it through a different lens and a different filter it's very interesting, can be mind blowing. And it's also very, it can lead to some very self-reflective moments.
How many moments have you had in the last month alone where you look up and you're like, did I just say that? Or was that my dad speaking through me? Because there are so many moments where like you start to say something and then you're like, that's something my mom would say. That's something my dad would say. And you have to then like go down the rabbit trail of like, where did that come from? Because I don't say that phrase, but here I am saying it. Where am I? What's happening here?
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I can even count the number of times I've had that feeling this month. A big thing, when our daughter turned 13, we got her a phone for her birthday.
Oh, okay.
That was I remember that being such a big thing for me because suddenly I was in charge of like parental controls
Yes.
of like, and it's not said, but it's also kind of, I mean, I think at least I implied like, well, if I mess this up,
Hmm.
then boy, am I in trouble. I'm destroying lives if I get
Yeah.
these, if I click the wrong toggle on the app. And, you know,
Yep.
and that was something that really weighed on me. And I remember, just the idea of that kind of new freedom,
Hmm.
which was something that I relished as a child when I was able to get that. I mean, we didn't have cell phones when I was a teenager, but, getting to go out, stay out later, being trusted with friends. Suddenly, I'm on the other side of that now. And I'm like, how many minutes can she use the phone for? Or like,
Hmm.
you know, and that's when I really felt like my dad.
Yeah.
Times
Well,
like that.
it, it's because yeah, I think I know for me, like the equivalent of that, I think was getting a driver's license, right? Because then
Yes. Hmm.
all there's so many like
Yeah.
ways
The
to
world.
freedom and stuff like that, and the world
Yeah.
was
The
now
world
open
opens
to.
up. Hmm.
And now I do feel like, because my 9-year-old will still be like, why don't I have a phone? And I'm like, why do you need a phone? Like, what do you like? I'm still your chauffeur, like every single day. Like, there's, we've told her, like, if you are somewhere where we are not and you need to call us to get picked up or something like that, those type of scenarios is when we would want you to have a phone. And then we're like, tell us a scenario in which you would be somewhere in which we wouldn't have, like, in which that would happen. She's like, oh, I can't think of any. I'm like, yeah, it's funny because like you try to let your kid in on your sense of logic, hoping they care about your sense of logic.
Yes.
That's not a
Yeah.
guarantee.
No, it never is.
No,
You can't trust on that kind of reasoning or, that logic to make any
no,
sense to them.
you can't. Well, because all they see is like, because like, yeah, they'll have friends who have phones, and like, why don't I have a phone? And you're like, well, I mean, I'm not saying I fully agree with it, but I have heard the phrase of like, if you want your kid's childhood to end, give them a phone. And I'm like, there is some truth. I think it's a little extreme, but it also is kind of true. So,
Sure. Yeah, it is. Seeing that, you're basically opening that door up
hmm,
for them
yeah,
and giving them permission to step through it in a lot of ways. And that can be a scary thing. And I think it was for me, definitely. Um, and I feel like just only recently in the last few weeks, I've started to
okay.
really kind of be okay with that. Sometimes it does take a while, but a big thing was just, I think it was a hard thing for me to do was to like just trust that, you know, she is a smart person and she is capable of making the right decisions. And, having faith in that
Yeah.
is a big thing.
It is. It's also something that like you have to have examples of it to trust it. But all the like moments to prove that hey, she knows what she's doing are ones that make you nervous, make you feel naturally unsettled. Because I mean, how much as a parent are you just like mitigating risk for someone else? Like if you do this,
Absolutely.
what are the negative consequences that can happen for you? And you know what consequence like it's funny to me to talk to someone and be like, hey, what's your worst case scenario here? Here's mine. Oh, here's the difference between those two. And like, there's so much anxiety wrapped around like what your worst case scenarios may be and how that doesn't become distance between you and another person, but you figure out how to like connect and communicate through it. I feel like is an unspoken marriage communication tool that I had to figure out.
Well, there's a lot of tools that I'm still trying to figure out. And I think you just spend your entire relationship, you
Yep.
know, figuring those out.
I think so
But that's
too.
okay, as long as you work toward that.
Hmm. Yeah. So you're about to enter into like your phase of like fatherhood in which you are kind of more like a setting rules and like guardrails and stuff like that for your daughter. Is it starting to settle with you okay? Or is it still kind of like, what is this?
Well, I think that comes, yeah, it's probably a mix of both of
Okay.
that. You know, I think maybe it would be, I'm the stepdad, you know, both, my wife and her ex are both, they're successful co-parenters. So, they're still in my daughter's life, as am I. But I find that position of being a stepdad to be kind of an interesting gray, you're maneuvering through a gray area.
Yes.
You're not the primary, you're not making the main decisions, the major decisions of how this child is being raised, but you're still there to offer guidance and also to mainly to also protect this person, and set up the example,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that has been, yeah, it's gray. It can
Yeah.
be gray, because where does your authority lay at times? Where does it lie? When do you take things to the parent, to my wife, or to my stepdaughter's
Mhm.
father?
Yep.
Or can you handle that? Are you allowed to handle that on your own?
Yeah.
And
I mean,
it poses some interesting questions as to
yeah,
what you're supposed to be doing.
of
And
course.
I think I've struggled with that
Yeah.
a lot.
I think that makes sense. I mean, you've already referred to her as your daughter. So I mean, it's whenever you love someone and you're trying to do right by them, you are trying to figure out like when do I like speak into this? When is the moment for me to not step up, for me to like speak into this moment to offer guidance and stuff like that with also acknowledging like I'm not a biological parent. So where am I? I care a ton. I love this child. And I have ideas of like, hey, if you did this, maybe this could happen. If you could do this, blah, 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 but like, how much do you want to listen to me compared to your own mother or father? I'm sure
Exactly.
is a lot of just sitting there being like, is this even for my own like biological kids? I sit there and I'm like, is this the moment? Was that the moment I should have done this? So I can't imagine having the slight separation of like, hey, you're a stepdad, not a biological father.
Hmm. Yes, and well, I lose sleep sometimes when I feel
Yeah.
like I haven't made the right decision, or like wondering if I'm doing the right thing. You know, but yeah, but I think that's just the way it goes, and
It is. That makes you very much a
we're
dad
always
then.
figuring things out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
always trying to
yep.
figure it out.
Is she like in eighth grade or she started high school yet?
She is a new eighth grader.
New eighth grader. Okay, cool. So at least, yeah, even the thought of kind of what you were saying earlier, like whenever your kid does enter into a new phase of life, it's impossible not to then be introspective about what your phase of life was like for that. Like whenever my kids go to high school, I'm going to remember exactly how awkward and how uncomfortable of a teenager I was whenever I went into high school, and just pray for them that that's not their experience will somehow be better than mine,
Yes. Yeah, and that's not made any easier with all the tools that are available to them now too.
Yep.
I feel like it was, I'm not saying I didn't get into trouble, but I feel like it was a lot more difficult to get into trouble.
Yep.
You really had to put yourself out there,
Yes.
whereas now, I don't know, you that fear of, you know, letting the wrong person into a conversation,
Yeah.
you know, because of that little smartphone thingamajig that you have. We didn't have to worry about that kind of things as much, I don't think. The dangers are just different, I think, and
Yes.
have evolved.
I think the consequences are drastically different. Like whenever I was
Mhm.
a kid, I would get a skateboard, go skateboard around with friends. So if I fall off a skateboard and scrape my knee, cool, I have an awesome scab for like a week or two or something like that. But no one is potentially kidnapping me and like selling me. Like there's
Yeah.
so
Uh-huh.
little bit difference.
Yeah, a little bit of a
A little
difference,
different.
definitely. Uh-huh.
Where'd
Yeah.
where'd you grow up?
I grew up just north of Baltimore.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
And kind of a suburban area. And I remember as a child just being able to
Hmm.
wandering around the neighborhood, free ranging, basically. But also like everyone's dogs were also free ranging too. You would just let your dog out. And then that was like your main source of like thrill and danger as a kid, was like running into the wrong dog in the
Wild
wrong person's backyard.
wild packs of dogs. You're saying Derry's over here like if these kids would just hang out with wild packs of dogs more, it'd be
I'm a lot. Yeah, I'm more comfortable with that.
okay. You know, how's how do you think your ability to jump a fence is still these days, Derry?
I was outside, probably not very good because I think I proved that today, just helping my my wife garden.
Dude,
Yeah,
the
the agility is not there.
I'm 38. We garden also, and like, yeah, now I'm like at Ace Hardware buying like the cushions you put under your knees whenever you're on your
Yeah.
knees for too long, and I'm like, it's already started. I know it's not going to get better, so it's going to start taking the
No.
precautions now.
Yeah, you've passed through that door. You've opened that door.
You know
There you
what?
go.
If it leads to less medical surgeries later because I somehow twinged my knee because I was too stubborn to get a soft cushion for it, I'm okay with that.
That's good. I think you're thinking right on that one.
Are you where are you based out of, or where do you live?
I live in Nashville.
Nice. I just I lived there for 18 years, so we just moved out to Denver area last summer. So
Oh yes.
yes.
So you got the cookies to Will.
Yeah, the carrot cake,
Yeah.
the massive
Yeah.
carrot cake.
Yeah,
Yes.
the carrot cake.
You're
Yeah,
good.
that's right. It
Yeah.
was carrot cake.
So I think I told Chad, because Chad was like, I don't really like carrot cake. And I was like, listen, you guys come. It's when we used to do this podcast in Nashville whenever I lived there,
Mhm.
and we called it the Nashville Dads. And I would bake goods for every guest who came on. So I told Chad, I was like, hey, listen, next time you guys are in town, which seems like you guys come out here every single May, I'll just make you like a massive skillet cookie or something like that. And he was like, yeah, that's good. I'll do that.
I'm a big fan of peanut butter cookies. Hint, hint.
Okay, cool. Okay,
Mhm.
cool.
Too.
I'll log that away and remember that.
Yeah, I didn't have a sweet tooth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, until my entire life I didn't have a sweet tooth until I quit drinking back in December.
Yeah.
Yeah, just maybe I think for the last 2 months now. Like I've been, it's all just about sweets for me now. Like it's crazy.
When you drank, well, if I can ask, if it's not too personal, how much did you drink? Like, were you able to be a moderate drinker, or were you kind of like a 3 or 4 drink drinker?
I was probably a 3 or 4 drink
Okay.
drinker. Every once in a while, probably just surpassing that limit as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's an easy thing to do in my line of work. It's basically, for me, it was mostly about, I suffer from major stage fright. And
Okay.
it was a way of dealing with that. Not the best way, but a way. Yeah. But, and that's something that figures into like, I don't think it was definitely something that was affecting the way that I thought about things. And it was something that my wife noticed too. And it was her suggestion basically that I stop at least for a bit and, give myself some time to rewire my brain
Mm-hmm.
so that I can handle things differently. And it's been good.
I think I like Pete Holmes a lot, like the stand-up comedian, and he's told stories before of like, I don't know if he still drinks or not, but like, yeah, he would do a comedy show. There's such a high from like being on stage and having reactions and stuff that he would drink a bottle of wine to help himself calm down. And then after all, he looked up and realized like, I've drank a bottle of wine 5 weeks in a row, like every single night.
Yeah.
There's nothing of it. Like, if the only way I can do my job is by consuming a substance to make sure I can do my job, I should probably reevaluate my relationship with this.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
how does it feel to be on stage now that you've gotten like a good leg of a tour without, while being sober? How's it feel to like be on tour and get on stage so far?
Absolutely terrifying still.
The fear didn't go
Even
away
more
just because
so.
the drinks.
Yeah. But I've found other tools to help me deal with it, and that's worked. Just keeping in mind, like I'm there to do a certain job.
Yeah.
As long as I'm doing that job, nothing outside of my world that allows me to do that job really matters, which includes looking like the audience out there or whatever. Not saying that they don't matter.
No.
But
Yeah.
for me to accomplish my job,
Yes.
I can choose not to interact if I don't need to,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that was something that really helped early on when we were just starting to get like that first tour back and after I quit, just keeping that in mind that, none of that really matters. I don't have to worry about that. And that was something that actually Jason helped me with.
Really cool. Yeah, well, I guess if you're in a band in which people are trying to stay sober, you've chosen a good one to be a part of.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's true. Like if I'm in the crowd watching, I'm not there being like, that keyboardist needs to be more entertaining. Unless if you had a keytar, different story, I have different expectations of you.
Yeah, well, you're really putting yourself out there.
You are. But like, yeah, it's funny because there's so many things in life you have to unravel. Because I'm sure you had to sit there and be like, okay, why do I have an expectation that I need to be this on stage? Why do I have this expectation of myself? And then once you realize, like, hey, you're the one with the expectation. Like, as long as you hit the right notes, like, you're good. Like, you're fine. You'll be okay.
Yeah, and sometimes even when you don't hit the right notes, you're still fine.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I've seen you guys quite a few times. If you're hitting wrong notes or not in time with each other, you're very good at hiding it. So good job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
If I can ask, what besides that tool you just said, are there any other tools you have found to help out with your stage fright and getting on stage?
I think a big thing that helped more than anything probably was just kind of reconnecting with the people close to me, like my bandmates
Yeah.
and my family, in a way where, that was influenced by the alcohol or the thing that I was medicating with. And that really boosted my confidence and made me really, I think a big thing about when you are, when I was drinking was like, I felt very isolated. I isolated myself in a lot of ways. I became very introverted and introspective and very judgmental about myself. And letting go of that was a big thing for me. And also knowing that my bandmates and my friends were in the same boat and we were all supporting each other and playing together was a big help. And that really helped me let go of a lot of my anxiety that I was feeling.
That's awesome. No,
And then like just having fun playing,
yeah, that too.
It's great. I feel like I had lost sight of that for a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, also, how long have you been a like touring musician for? Because you've been doing this for a bit, right?
Yeah, I've been touring with Jason for, I think this is my 18th year now.
Yeah.
With Jason. And before that, maybe 5 years.
Yeah.
Before Jason, So it's kind of all I know.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you guys keep on playing bigger and bigger venues. Like it's not like you're playing like, here's 100 people to come see me. You guys are walking on stage at Red Rocks or the Ryman for like 8 days in a row to like sold out crowds. And you're like, okay, now go do your job. And like, that's a pressure. That's a definite pressure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Now it feels not so much, things aren't as big as they used to be, like for me. I mean, yeah, they're huge and I'm really happy and grateful for everything that we've accomplished, but they're not so big that they're overwhelming the way that they used to be. No, they're still horrifying and frightening, not overwhelming.
Like you feel where you can have control to some extent in the anxiety. Whereas I know anytime I've drank because I feel uncomfortable with something, it's because I'm like, well, at least I can control how many drinks I have tonight. And that's about the only thing I feel like I can control. And even that, super false.
And then
it's not real control.
Yeah. And then I failed at that too.
You will only have 2 drinks before you walk on stage. Wait. Where does the stage start?
Yeah, exactly.
Lots of self-negotiating in those moments.
Mm-hmm. Always.
Are you with your daughter? Are you able to like how are you with like keeping calm in like big moments and stuff like that? Because if getting on stage has had some anxiety to it, whenever you're at home and stuff, are you able to keep like a calmness or a level head for the most part, or do you get in your own head a bit too?
I do get in my own head a bit. That's definitely something that I've been working on. I've been more aware of it.
Yes.
When I do that. And yeah, it almost feel like sometimes it comes from the same place as the stage fright at times. Because there is that reticence, I feel like if there's something happening that maybe I don't necessarily agree with or I think can be differently, a lot of times I'm just kind of afraid to speak up or say something because I don't know if that's my place or not, or does it even count for anything sometimes? And, take away from that now is like, yeah, maybe what you're thinking is wrong, but it's not worth mentioning, or bringing up. Because then, if it is wrong, someone can tell you that no, you're going overboard on that, or maybe that's a little dramatic, or like. But if you don't, you never know. And I think it's just opening lines of communication, and I think that's important.
I find it very hard to let people in on my thought process because that feels like a very big like vulnerability to me to be like,
Sure.
hey, here's how I'm thinking about this. Because then someone can look at you and be like, you're thinking about this completely wrong. And if there's truth to that or not, that still hurts to think like, oh, I did this all completely wrong, didn't I? So no, that all resonates in my head as well. Of like,
Yeah.
hey man, you should say this out. And it's like, well, will it change anything? If I say this out loud, will it affect anything? Will anything move in any direction? Or am I just saying, or am I just talking, which to me feels like making myself vulnerable to then be told to be ignored? And still need to do some work there in my own self. But
Yeah.
I don't want to speak if I feel like what I say won't be listened to. And I don't know how to get over that some days.
I think that's a difficult one too, But that's why, that's why I have my wife there, because
Yeah.
she tells me I'm wrong all the time.
Hourly reminder.
No, and that's the one thing. Like, if I can speak to her about things, I'm okay with her saying like, no, that's not the way that we're going to approach that. Like, because mainly it helps me just kind of rectify the way that I'm thinking about things, or like, I went through a big thing, I think, with the phone, especially when it was like, the idea of the phone, like being able to communicate, when you're not in the same place, that was a big deal. And like, I would get in my head sometimes when I would like text or call when she wasn't with us, and like I wouldn't hear back from her, and I think, it would kind of hurt me in a way. But, you know, I brought it up to my wife because it was kind of upsetting to me. And she was pretty much like, well, her father, you're not her friend. She's not going to be communicating with you like you're her best friend. She has other friends that she's trying to reach out to and establish these relations with. You need to just take a step back and know that she will communicate with you. You don't have to push her. You don't have to do anything like that, but you're a constant in her life.
Yeah.
You're not the one that she's trying to build social connections with through the phone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that fucking makes sense.
Yeah. Of
That's
course.
totally
Yeah.
right. Of course. You're absolutely right. And that was a big hurdle for me, like just trying to establish that, and how that that tool of communication would work between the two of us.
Yeah. I think one thing that's helped me a lot with letting people inside my head is just to be more in tune with my intentions and then figure out who's safe to communicate that to. So to be like, all right, I'm trying to figure out how to connect with, like to tell my wife, I'm trying to figure out how to connect with our daughter. Here's what I thought would lead to that. Do you think, is that going to hit the mark? Is that not? My end goal is how do I feel more connected to you because I love you and I care about you. I feel like I've looked at my wife and even said that to her, like, hey, I feel like I'm trying to figure out how to communicate. I love you and I want to communicate. We're in this life together. And I feel like everything I'm doing isn't working to get to there. Help me out. Help me figure this out. Like, I'm just going to start with my intentions because my actions don't seem to be leading to it. And that has been a good way for me to acknowledge what good I feel like I'm trying to bring into the moment and then be more receptive to, because once I like can acknowledge like, hey, your intentions aren't bad here, then I'm much more receptive to tweaking whatever my actions were. But if I, for some reason, feel like my intentions were bad, then I'm going to be defensive as hell the entire time.
Yeah, you're kind of locked in a loop in a way, I think talking and communicating your intentions kind of opens that up for you and for the person that you're communicating with, Not always easy, but
No.
I think it's necessary, right?
Yes, it is. Because, I mean, if you feel like there's a wall with you and your wife or a friend or anything like that, that's whenever, that's the go-to I know to do is to be like, hey, here are my intentions. And I feel like I'm not hitting the mark. And I would rather hit the mark than keep on feeling like I'm creating distance between you and I. So that's not the end result I'm looking for here. Help me out.
Yeah. Hey, I'm trying to build something.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to tear something down.
Yep.
I am trying to build, if it's not that obvious.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if everything I just said tore you down, I need to know that because I can only be so self aware of my tone, my words, and my actions. So just let me know when I'm being a dick because I'm not meaning to be.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that can, yeah. And that takes some courage though. But that's why we have the people that we love and we trust around.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to ask you about like your life on tour and stuff? Normally we have on touring musicians. That's one thing whereas I'm talking about. When you're on tour, like how do you feel like how's your connection to your family whenever you're on tour? Like is there anything you and your wife and your daughter do to try to stay connected? Or is it kind of like, all right, Derry, we'll see you in 2 or 3 weeks. See you then.
um, we try to call
Okay.
every day if we can. If not, it's not the biggest deal. We both all have a lot going on
Yeah.
in our lives, and sometimes whether it's being in different time zones or whatever, we keep in mind that those things make things difficult sometimes. Don't let that get to us. And I think that's always just been the way it is. Touring has been, one of the biggest realities of me and my wife's relationship. Like it's always been in the picture. It's not something that like, it was already ramped up and I was already spending half the year away from home before we even got together. In fact, like, I think, yeah, the day, I think it was supposed to be like, well, I got 3 days after we got married, I was supposed to just hop back on the road.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that didn't happen because the pandemic happened.
Yeah, that thing. Yeah, yeah.
You remember that thing?
Yeah. You had a very extended honeymoon then. Were you just the two of you
Yes.
together for a long time?
Yeah, we got married the day that everything locked down.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Did you do like
Friday.
a wedding ceremony or just like go down to the courthouse and make it like legally binding and everything?
We did a courthouse wedding in
Okay.
Baltimore. We were just
Cool.
we wanted it to be small, but we wanted my parents to be able to attend. And I think we were either the last or second to last couple to get married at the Baltimore courthouse before everything closed down. And we had a hotel booked for the night town Baltimore. And the next day we were going to just kind of start our honeymoon with just visiting museums and taking in the culture, but everything was shut down. But I think the fact that I didn't go on tour 3 days later, and it was basically me and my wife and stepdaughter in the house for probably a year. I
Yeah.
don't even remember how long it was.
I don't
think,
either.
blessing. I mean, it was a blessing and a curse for us in that sense. Where like I think our relationships were a lot stronger because we were locked in the house together.
Yeah. Well, I
And
mean,
we had to figure out how things work.
when you were in lockdown, were you in lockdown in Baltimore or were you in Nashville?
We were in Nashville. We were actually able to fly
Okay.
back from Baltimore, made it home to Nashville before everything really got serious.
Okay.
Yeah, I just remember my wife had, you know, instead of hanging out in the city, we ended up like getting out of the hotels and like staying with my parents
Okay.
for the rest of that weekend before we could fly.
Yeah.
And I remember hitting the airport and my wife really wanting a drink, understandably hanging out with the in-laws on, for 2 days after you just got married,
Yep.
but they weren't selling any alcohol at the airport at any of the restaurants or anything like that. But yeah, but we made it back to Nashville and yeah, spent the next year locked down together.
I mean, based on your touring schedule, I would assume that was a very unique time to be able to connect with your wife and your stepdaughter and to build a very, very, very good foundation. Because otherwise, yeah, you would have probably, I mean, I feel like you guys play at least 100 shows a year, right? Something like that. So
it has been that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is a definite, there's always a silver lining, right? So I'm glad and whatever, that you were able to have a time to connect with your wife and stepdaughter as you guys were starting the next chapter of your life.
Yeah. It was definitely a good thing for us. I don't know if we'd still be here
Yeah.
together if it hadn't been for that. I think a big thing about touring for me and doing it as long as I have is that I've never really, up till recently, um, I've never really had to like get around and figure things out and resolve things because, by nature of touring, you can run away from things
Yep.
all the time
Yeah.
because that's what you have to do. You
Yeah.
have to be in the next city the next day or whatever. And I think that's something I learned from all that. Yeah, there's no running away anymore.
Not as much.
Not from this.
Not from that.
Yeah.
And I mean, that I think that's one thing the
Mhm.
pandemic did to everyone. I mean, I'm a
Mhm.
stay-at-home dad, and even then it was like, hey man, you literally, like, most of my life and job was being at home, like, but it was like, hey, now you can't go to the zoo. Now you can't go to a playground. You can't even go grocery shopping with your kids anymore. And I'm just like,
Mhm.
oh, all of my release valves are gone. Like everything I
Yeah.
used to do to like get a break, change up energy, do anything like that, you can't do anymore. And I just remember being
Now you got
like,
to improvise.
yeah. And I'm like, but most of my days already are improvising because I'm with little
Yeah.
kids and I can't predict them. Like,
I already thought I was improvising.
I thought I was already doing this decently. And now I have to find out that I wasn't at all. Thank you. But yeah, it was a definite, like, I think the pandemic made me just realize how many, whenever you remove all of your normal release valves, coping mechanisms, and then you have to figure out new ones, you have to look in that mirror completely differently than you did before.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Scary truth.
And hopefully not, when a vice goes away, just don't replace it with another vice. That's the other thing to figure out is like,
Yeah.
when you're like, hey, I'm not going to drink anymore, to be like, okay, what's going in its place? What do you mean? There's a reason you drank and there was a need you were trying to fulfill with alcohol. So what's going to take its place? Cookies? Okay, be careful with the cookies, man. Just be a little
Moderate the
careful.
cookies.
Just
Moderate the cookies.
Just- Dude, to be aware of your own patterns is so tiresome. That's why you have friends, because whenever you're tired of acknowledging your own patterns, then your wife will look at you and be like, you do this every day. And you're like, damn it. I really hope that didn't.
Yeah. Thank you for telling me that. And also, why did you have to tell me?
Exactly. Yeah. You're not wrong. And that's what's angering me currently. Okay. Thank you. What about, I know touring is a massive part of your life. What about like studio work? Do you do much studio work these days?
Here and there.
Okay.
I do freelance sessions when I can. The main gig keeps me pretty busy though.
Yeah.
But I've also got my own projects. I've been working with a drummer on a collaborative instrumental project, and that's been a lot of fun. Trying to step those little side things up a little bit more just to have my own releases.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine if I played music as my main gig, trying to make sure it still stayed fun would take a lot of intentionality because it's a job.
Yes.
So that's why I assume most people have side projects is just whenever they're musicians is because they're like, all right, this is where all my headspace is. I need to put my headspace somewhere else with music so I can stay creative and keep it fun and stuff.
Yeah, take a lateral step away from what you're doing and freshen things up a little bit. Yeah, I that's what I do. Like, I think outside of my ties to the 400 unit, I'm really into electronic and instrumental music.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Whenever you said that, I thought of like Tom York had some like side projects that I felt like were very, very, very like Eraser. His like self was very trippy, very much like I need to be in a certain headspace to really respect and understand this album.
And I like taking those, I like taking dramatic steps away from what I'm used to doing.
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry about hitting all the right notes all the time.
That's right. Yeah. That's awesome.
I can make my own notes.
Yeah. That's why synthesizers exist. So you can just modulate and do all that fun stuff.
Exactly.
Synths are so fun. But anyway, how we end every episode is we ask every guest a series of 5 questions. So for you, since you're a stepdad, normally the first question is kid backup name, but you weren't here.
I was wondering how that was going to work.
Yes. So, okay. So let's see. Let me look at, okay. This one, we'll see if this applies because I don't know how much kid shows you have to watch. One of my favorite questions to ask dads is, do you have a least favorite kid show or entertainment thing? Like whenever your daughter wants to put it on and watch it, you're just like, this is this is awful. I cannot watch this show. Do you have anything like that with your daughter?
Gosh, trying to think. When she was younger, I don't think we watched too much TV
Okay.
at the time. When I met her, she was really into Frozen.
Yeah.
You know, that was a big, big, big movie for her. All the drawings that she would do, all Frozen related. Posters that we get her, Frozen related. She doesn't like Frozen anymore.
How's it? Okay. Actually, how's it feel as a stepdad to enter into the world of like Disney entertainment? Because like as I saw it coming and I was still like, I really don't want to enter into this phase of life and knew it was going. You like stepped into Frozen. Like you didn't have the gradual ramp up. You were just like, hey, here's your wife, here's your stepdaughter. You watch Frozen now. So you didn't have any lead in time. You just went right in.
Yeah. It wasn't too bad.
Okay.
I've always been a fan of just entertainment in general.
Okay.
And that's the one thing about a movie for me that even if I don't like it, I can always find something in the soundtrack of it that either will appeal to me, or if it disgusts me, that's still something that I'm getting from this movie, and I'm learning something about myself at the time, through it as well.
That's how I feel also watching kid entertainment sometimes is I'm like, all right, I hate every plot point of this movie, but how's that soundtrack? Is there anything creative here? How's the blend? How's the mix? I've watched this movie 5 times in the last week, and this is where I'm at, as I am analyzing the panning in the third song in the first act. Here we go.
Yeah. Yeah. My stepdaughter was more into, I feel like it was more graphic novels and book, rather than the TV shows and stuff when she was growing up.
I think it's really cool. My oldest daughter is a really big fan of graphic novels, and I think it's so cool how much they've gone back and done like A Wrinkle in Time is now a graphic novel. She's really into like this series called Wings of Fire that is now a graphic novel, and like how many things are like, man, if I would have had that, I would have like read so much more. And my variety what I would have read would have been a lot greater when I was a kid, I think.
I feel like when I was a kid, reading, I don't even know if they were called graphic novels at the time or whatever. I felt like that was really looked down on.
Yep, it was.
And maybe that just reflects the thinking of the times and stuff, because that was the stuff that would grab me as a kid too. I couldn't hold that against, of course, I want her to be able to read books without pictures and stuff, but you can't really, if something is grabbing the attention, you can't just push that stuff away. Like there's something there, and that probably deserves to be acknowledged in some way. As long as it's not like a threat, of course.
Yeah. I'm a really big Kurt Vonnegut fan, and someone went back and did Slaughterhouse-Five as a graphic novel, and that entire storyline is so trippy because it jumps between like time periods and stuff like that it works perfectly as a graphic novel, because like you then can see what clothes he's wearing, so if like he's a POW, if he's after the war, or if he's in like the prison camp or whatever. And I was just like, oh, this works surprisingly well as a graphic novel. This is awesome.
It probably in some ways works better than the novel actually does, in order for the reader to grab the picture of what's happening.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. Do you have a favorite TV or movie dad?
I remember you asking this question in the podcast that I listened to, and I did not think of an answer for this one.
What
Do
about?
I have
You can also do like growing up, who was like a whenever like growing up, whatever sitcoms you would watch. Like to me, Homer Simpson is my like TV dad, but I don't want to be Homer Simpson. It's just growing up, I watched a lot of Simpsons. So whenever I think of who's a TV dad, I think of Homer Simpson more than I think of like Al Bundy or someone like that,
Yeah, I think what's the dad's name from Family Guy?
Peter Griffin.
Peter Griffin. I think my favorite TV dad would have to be a mix between Homer Simpson and Peter Griffin, because, the amount of times that I think I really can identify with the amount of times they both stumble
Yeah.
in what they're doing, whether it's through just misfortune or their own stupidity. But at the same time, they still love their family. And you can tell, they're always trying, whether they're actively trying or not. The intent is there.
Yes. They may not be prioritizing their family the way that I would, but in some way they are at the same
In some
time.
way.
In some way. It might be a stretch. However,
Yeah.
okay.
You don't end the episodes hating them.
You don't.
So
That's right.
that's always the
Yeah.
point.
They definitely stumble. They definitely have moments where like, dude, there's no way you can be this person. And then by the end, you're like, all right, you're fine. You're a lovable buffoon.
Yeah.
Next question. I don't know if you had to deal with this much because of your daughter's age and everything. Do you have a go-to replacement curse word, or do you just curse? Because I feel like you usually use replacement curse words when your kid is younger, but as they get older, you're like, I know you're saying this word and you've heard it before, so here's the word.
My wife and I curse all the time. And we can't get our daughter to curse at all.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you just say it. You're just like, you know what? I've been on the road for most of my life, and yeah, here it is.
Yeah. Just say what's on your mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Respect.
But yeah. No. She has her own boundaries when it comes to that kind of thing.
It's cool.
And I don't know where she gets them, but it's cool. That's one of those things, like one of those surprising things that I was saying earlier. Like, she's doing a good job herself.
Yeah.
Things, and trusting that.
It's fascinating because this could be a huge side tangent, but whenever I was growing up, I wasn't taught how to self-regulate like at all. Like not, it wasn't a priority. Whereas like, I feel like nowadays, most of what I'm trying to do is trying to teach my kids how to know how to calm themselves down, regulate themselves, know what they're getting into. Whereas I feel like as a kid, it was just like, you're playing video games. Did you do your homework? All right, I'm not going to check your homework. I'm just going to assume that you did it because you said you did it. And like the ability to get away with stuff was a little bit easier in some ways. So yeah.
The monitoring wasn't there.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah.
When you got two full-time working parents, it's kind of easy to slip through the cracks. But yeah,
Absolutely.
the ability to the focus on self-regulation seems to be a lot greater now. Of like, hey, I'm not going to tell you not to curse. I'm going to tell you, how do you feel about cursing? What's your relationship with these words? Oh, you don't like it, and now you're just deciding not to use them? That's actually very mature and very responsible.
Yeah. I might have to ask her what her reasons are. But, she just chooses not to.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Next question is, what's like a favorite toy or activity that you like to do with your daughter?
Watching TV together. That's been an hour here and there. It's been a big thing. It was kind of neat to see her go from like a big thing for her a couple of years ago was like getting into like Stranger Things and like things that were scary and like, are you ready for that? And she felt ready, so she wanted to do it. So we got into those shows, and now we just finished. Yesterday we finished the first season of The Last of Us, which was like, that show gives me anxiety. Just thinking about the themes too that in there, and every 15 minutes or so I'd be like, still okay with this? Because we turned this off, but she'd want to press on with it.
Derry, you're telling me that a show in which an adoptive father tries to keep his adoptive daughter safe in a world in which he can't control anything might have given you some anxiety? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Is there a parallel there? I don't know.
I'm not a psych major in any way. I'm just going to lay those facts out there. Do with them what you want, man. So
wow. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about it like that, but boy.
Man. Well, next time you see your therapist or counselor, you got something to talk about. That's always good, Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good job, security, for them. All right, last question. I'm going to change this one up a little bit too. Is there a moment of your daughter's life that you're most excited to be a part of or to see them accomplish in their life?
I think I'm most excited for her is watching her grow through high school. Like, it's been such a pleasure seeing her, like, coming into her life as a 7-year-old / 8-year-old, seeing her go from that point to a teenager has been such a rewarding thing. Not just watching her grow, but also watching kind of feeling myself grow as well through the process. I can't wait to see what happens as she kind of gets closer to kind of fully realizing herself as an independent person. And I look forward to it. It's, you know, terrifying on some levels, but at the same time, it's just so I don't know. There's something really wonderful about the idea of how, wondering how it's going to unfold.
Yeah. I've been thinking about that for like my kids and if they want to go to college or not. Because college was such a like massive part of like hope and optimism. Because it's like, hey, why are you going to college here? Because I'm hopeful for that of who I can become. And here's a very tangible way to invest in it. And I'm not going to act like that is not equally full of wonder and anxiety all at the exact same time.
Uh-huh. What about the driving?
You know what? Actually, I thought of this earlier. I am more worried about handing my daughters a phone than I am about teaching them how to drive. I don't know why that is, but maybe it's because like I understand how the driving world works, but I'm already feeling out of touch with how social media works and what damage it can do. So like I feel like I can understand the physical danger, but the emotional danger and what all can happen in the cloud, whatever, is something where I'm just like, oh, I feel unprepared. You just don't want to send your daughter or child into the wolves, like the den, right? Like
No,
you don't want to like
absolutely.
that's what like I mean, I-25 out here in Denver is terrifying, even as someone who's driven for like 20 years. But
Yeah, sure.
like the thought of like for some reason teaching them, I feel better prepared to know how to teach them how to look out for themselves on the road. Whereas like online, I'm like, there's so much gray area. There's so much like, what happens if I open this door, that I'm just like, how do I instill in you what doors are better if they stay closed? And that's usually learn that from experience.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I think, for me, seeing how she has handled the phone over the last few months, I have no worries about her driving. I feel like a lot of those anxieties and stuff have really calmed in me over the last few months. Like, I feel like every day I feel like she's showing me that she's a good and she's a responsible person.
It's
And
awesome.
more so than I think the me of like 4 months ago would
Yeah.
have given her credit for. And it's a lovely surprise.
Yes, parenting can be so exhausting because I think you are constantly assessing risk and which risk you think your child is ready for. And it's great to be shown that your daughter was ready for something that you had questions if they weren't.
Absolutely. Yes.
But yeah, for the most part, that's pretty much all I got. If you wanted to do if we want to follow you, like your Instagram account, like some self promotion of any sort, so people can know where to find you, if they for some reason wanted to follow you and your journey and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Uh-huh. Yeah. If you'd like to follow me, you can follow me at 10_pony. That's my Instagram handle. Or model rocketry music is my new project.
How did you come up with Tin Pony? How did that end up being your Instagram handle? Because I remember whenever I saw that was your handle, and I was like, "There's a story here." So what's the story, Derry?
What is the story? I've had that moniker for since 1996, 95. I think that was the name of an old band of mine out of DC. We had used that as our record, kind of our independent record label that we would release our little DIY CDs under. And I just kind of liked it and kept it.
It's still here. The memory stays
Yeah.
alive.
Yeah, I guess it's very much a part of my identity, I think, and history as a music creator.
It's part of the Derry lore that exists.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And maybe some of my friends from back then can actually give me more details as how I came up with that, because I can't remember now.
Isn't that so funny? You look up and you're like, how do I have this? So, yeah, if you have a nickname or something like that, people are like, where'd you get that nickname? And you're like, I actually don't. I don't know. But you can still call me it.
Yeah.
Well, Derry, if you're ever out in the Denver area, I owe you a baked good. So whether it's next May, because you guys seem to be coming out here early May, like every year right now, So hopefully you come out again next May. But if you're ever out here for any other random reason, I owe you a baked good as a thank you for coming on the show.
Oh,
So
well, thank you for
keep
having
that in
me.
mind. Yes.
And I will keep that in mind because I love sweets now. So it's
Yes.
the way it is.
We can't, yeah, you're like, this is my life now. It's healthier. Not saying it's healthy. For the most part, thank you a ton for spending time with me and hanging out.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me, Devin. I appreciate it.
Of course. And I'll see you when I see you, Derry. All right.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the episode.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram at the Imperfect Dads Podcast.
And make sure to subscribe and rate us 5 stars wherever you listen to us.
The music is provided by the Wildfeathers.
And all episodes are produced and edited by me.
Make sure to tune in Mondays for new episodes.